So will Eskom keep the lights on after the votes tomorrow? Are we being unnecessarily sceptical? Mthunzi Luthuli is an energy expert who joins us now. Mthunzi, thanks for coming in. We're a cynical country. It's a cynical time. Are we going to have load shedding on Thursday morning?
Good afternoon, Stephen, and good afternoon, Vuyo. Look, it's in fact, first let me just say it's sad that we're skeptical when when there's no load shedding. In fact, the opposite should be true. I think that should just highlight how serious the problem is. Now, to answer your question, load shedding will definitely return. And there are two reasons I say that. Firstly, you'll remember that Eskom a few weeks ago had a press conference. And they already in that conference, they warned us that in fact load shedding might return. They didn't say after the elections, they said in winter. Obviously that's after the elections, okay? Now, the problem with that is that we've always known that there's a winter in every year. So why didn't they prepare for the winter? Okay, so that's the first point. So we know, for that reason, we know that load shedding will return. But the second reason, which is the more serious reason, is that this load shedding problem in South Africa is not a technical problem. It's definitely not a technical problem. Coal-fired power generation is a 19th century technology. It's a mature technology. Engineers know how it works. If something breaks, we know how to fix it. So the problem is not technical. The problem is political, primarily, and to a smaller degree, it's managerial. Okay. The reason it's political is the following. The private sector wants to get into the power generation sector to make money. It's a big sector. There's a lot of money to be made, okay? But in order to justify the entry of the private sector, Eskom must be shown to be unable to provide electricity for the country. That is really the problem. Minister Ramaphosa spoke about a UCLF of 15,000 megawatts. That's the unplanned capacity loss, basically breakdowns. Total breakdowns at Eskom that amount to 15,000 megawatts. That's close to 3 power stations. Those are units that are lying there,
sure.
not being repaired and not being brought back online. The question is, why were they not being repaired and brought back online? That 15,000 megawatts has been a permanent feature. It's been there almost permanently, so to speak, for the last 2 to 3 years.
Can I ask you to answer that very same question you are posing, Mthunzi? Because, I mean, the chairperson of the board of Eskom would have us to believe that all they have done is apply sensible management principles, as you call it. All they have done is to incentivize staff, Eskom staff. They have also made sure that, as he calls it, they have productive engagements with the shareholder. The question is, I'm saying, can you please answer your question? Because if it is as simple as all that, then the question is, what was that not done long before, now? Yeah.
Yes, I mean, those things that you mentioned, that's normal management practice. It's good management practice. And it's not rocket science. It's stuff that should have been done a long time ago when the problem emerged.
Why was it not done?
Why was it not done? If that was the problem, okay? So I don't buy what the chairperson of Eskom says. That is not the problem, in fact, you see. The problem, as I say, is that UCLF, the unplanned capacity loss factor, the units that are broken down, that are not being fixed. And the reason is, why are they not being fixed? You see, it's like, very quickly, it's like, let's say a board put you in charge, or a shareholder put you in charge of a bus company, say, okay? And I'm making this example to make it easier for our viewers. And let's say you have 100 buses. Buses break down.
Sure.
You don't fix them, and the problems are not major. Maybe it's a gearbox there, it's something else that is minor that can be fixed. You don't fix it. Instead of fixing it, you go and get your friends to hire in buses, and you pay them for providing the bus service at costs that are much higher than what you would provide internally.
Just to say, Mthunzi, because one interpretation of what you're saying is that this has all been deliberate sabotage at Eskom.
Yes.
That's what you mean?
That's what I mean.
Okay. But if that's the case, there are a couple of other things that then need to be brought into the conversation, which is that around the world you won't really find people relying on just one generator. In fact, the president has said several times that we can't just have one generator of electricity. The second thing would be that one of the real reasons we had load shedding for so long was that Kusile and Medupi were designed badly. So, and former President Mbeki has been saying this recently as well, that you had the design problems there. Now, that might be to do with the Hitachi deal, might be to do with other things. But to say that this is all deliberate to bring in the private sector, you would need to show real evidence and real intent when you say that.
Yeah, the evidence is there, Stephen. Like
How
I
so?
say,
Who did it?
Like I say, if you have units that are broken down, why is it that you don't fix them?
But they are being fixed, but different ones break down. Isn't that what's been happening? Is that you've got different things breaking down at different times?
No. And that's why this UCLF is not properly explained.
Sure, but it's been coming down dramatically in the last few months.
Yeah, because we're moving closer to elections. That is something that should have been done a long time ago. If you look at those units that form part of this 15,000 megawatts of UCLF, those units, many of them, you find that they've been lying there for months. In fact, some of them for years, not being fixed and brought back online. And the question is why? That is the issue.
You know what's interesting for me is that you're saying what you just said.
Yeah.
And I put to you what I put to you earlier about some of the things that the chairperson of the board of Eskom says they have done, right, to try and fix the problem, and not going into the issues you are raising. You then have a director, the former CEO of Eskom, saying, all I've done is like burn diesel. You deprived me of something. You gave me 6 billion rands, and you now have but Eskom now has a budget of 24 billion rands, right, to try and keep the lights on. Now, it looks like it depends on who you ask. Yeah. And I'm appalled that there is no unanimity as to what the problems are, how to deal with them, who did what wrong, and why. And this is the big done, which is why I think South Africans are understandable when they're cynical about whether this, we've seen, or we will see the end, of load shedding anytime soon, which is what the new guys claim will happen.
Yeah. Let me give you an example, and it partly answers the question that you, Stephen, asked earlier. In the middle of load shedding, when we were getting stages 3, 4, and 5, the government went on and shut down Komati.
Yeah.
Komati Power Station, which was generating at the time around 1,000 megawatts. Okay. They shut it down and they installed a solar power generation facility there that generates, I think it's something in the region of 200 megawatts. Now, where's the sense in that?
Yes, but Komati was about 50 or 60 years old.
No, but
it was long past its design life. Only one unit of the 4 units were working.
No. There were more than there was more than one unit working because it was at the time it was generating 1,000 megawatts. 1,000. In the middle of load shedding, it makes absolutely no sense to shut it down. Okay, and your justification is that you're going to bring in renewables. What about the country that has no electricity? This is why I say all of these things do not make sense from a purely a rational perspective and from a technical perspective. Komati now is a town that is a ghost town. People are unemployed, they've lost their jobs, they can't send their children to school, they struggle to put food on the table. For what? To bring in 200 megawatts of solar panels. This is why I say this load shedding problem is really not a technical problem. It isn't. It's a political / managerial problem.
Why do you say like political? You say who did what exactly? Because I can't see something like that being done without politicians in particular being complicit.
Oh yes, they are.
So who are those people and what did they do exactly with who?
It starts right from the presidency and to the various ministers that are involved.
So Gwede Mantashe is helping the private sector. That seems unlikely.
Gwede Mantashe, Minister Mantashe, is one of the few ministers that has spoken out against this just energy transition. But what I don't understand is, they are one government. They sit in one cabinet. To have one minister speaking out against the just energy transition, but the president and other ministers, being in favor of it is a bit strange. But back to your question. Just look at the last bid window, okay? And who won contracts, most of the contracts in the bid window. Most of those contracts were won by a consortium that is led by Patrice Motsepe's a company. And Patrice Motsepe is the president's brother-in-law. Just to add something else, renewables are expensive. Okay? This is another lie that South Africa gets told.
Only not once they're installed.
No. Can I just...
We're literally running out of time, so I'm going to...
But very quickly, but very quickly. You see, they normally quote figures of 50 cents per kilowatt hour, which is what gets tendered at DMRE. But you can't compare that with coal. Let's say, often they say it's 50 cents, coal is 120 per kilowatt hour. But that 50 cents is to produce electricity only for 8 hours. So if you want to make a proper comparison, because coal is 24/7, then you must multiply that figure by 3. Already you are at 150. But there's another complication. The solar only generates during the day. So if you want to be able to provide electricity for the other 16 hours, you've got to store that energy, which means you have got to use battery storage, which is very expensive. And when you add that cost, we are already at around 4 rand or so cents per kilowatt hour. And then if you add the cost of connecting them because they are way out in the Karoo, long transmission lines have to be built, you can see how astronomical the cost is.
All right. I'm sorry, Mthunzi, we're completely out of time, and there is a different version. There are people who strongly disagree with you.
Yeah.
Might be one of them. Mthunzi Luthuli, thank you very much indeed, the energy expert. I'm sorry, we are out of time, but we do have to end it there.